Hey guys, Kev here, and I'm going to do my full review on the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. So this guy here I've had for a while now. I mean, it's been a month or two, I think, at this point. It was loaned out just now to a good buddy for a couple weeks, so I didn't have it. And I got it back this weekend, and man, did I miss this thing. That's kind of like the sign of how much I really like a knife is when I loan it out or I sell it and then I'm missing it, right? This I was missing in my pocket, missing in my hands to fidget with the whole time it was gone, and that means a lot to me. I went to a knife meetup this weekend in Doylestown, so shout out to everybody who came out to the knife meetup. And I actually got to handle two more of these. One of them was older, and one of them was like brand new, just came out, or just was made. And I got to feel the differences in the knife from basically the first kind of batch to the middle kind of batch to the new kind of batch. And it's kind of funny. I ended up leaving feeling like I got the perfect Roosevelt build. Like in terms of how he finished it, the detent is very important in that aspect, and I'll get into that. But I thought it was kind of funny, so I'm glad that I had that meetup because it kind of appeased me a little bit. It makes me less anxious to like try to hunt down a new one or get on the books or whatever. I do want another one, because I want to be able to build my perfect spec, even though this kind of is that. I just maybe would make some changes to it. Very minor, like color changes, and I'll talk about that. But this honestly is like the perfect build for me. So anyway, I'm not like in a hurry to get another one, but I'm always going to be in when he has something that drops, or I'm going to try to get in on the lotteries, whatever, right? Just because it'd be cool to have another one, especially at table price. So that's one thing I need to get out of the way. If you haven't seen any of my other videos on this, to get this knife, which you may or may not be aware of, this is a super popular knife. This is like the knife in the knife world right now. If you're into collecting or if you're into the hobby at this level of price, anything like $500 and above, you're probably aware of the Roosevelt, and it's probably on your radar or you own one. Unless it's just too small for you, which I would understand. But even with big hands, this knife works fantastically. We'll get into that as well. But yeah, so retail, these start at $500. That's the base price if you just got plain stonewash scales, plain titanium clip, plain titanium hardware. And I believe this blade would be fine. Stonewash would be fine. He also does like a dark acid wash. That costs a little more. And then it goes up from there. So a build like this with green ano on all the hardware, and then a Damascus clip, which is absolutely gorgeous. I've done a close-up of this knife. I've done a video like that if you want to see it. Back spacer is green like that. And then these scales are Zerk blasted with a golf putter milling. Absolutely just stunning. And then you have the stonewashed blade right there. So this one would come in around $750, I'm pretty sure, if you got this build right now. And I traded a Gavco custom that I had, which was a $900 knife. And then I added $200. So I'm basically $1,100 into this. And I honestly have not once sat there and thought, man, I shouldn't have done that. Or I wish I hadn't done that. Or looked at my knife case like I do sometimes. I look at them. I look at knives like dollar signs sometimes. I'm like, I haven't carried that for a while. That's how much. That's how much. And then I can do a knife sale, right? This knife has never been considered for that. It's basically just like in my pocket, unless I have to, for review, obviously I got to carry other stuff. So, but it'll still find its way into my pocket a lot. It's just an amazing piece. And even though I overpaid for it by $350, if my math is right, I don't regret that one single iota. So for the crowd out there who doesn't overpay for anything, I won't pay more than table, that's fine. You can keep not having a Roosevelt if you want. You can wait until you get a book spot. You can try to get the perfect trade. For you guys who are trying to post on the Facebook group, that's a good place to try to get one. That's a good question somebody's going to ask is, Kev, where can I get one of these? I'm really interested. Sorry, I'm fogging these up. And, you know, the answer is you're going to want to follow the Facebook group if you're into the secondary. And if you just want to get one from Oz, you're going to want to follow him on Instagram. And keep an eye on his, sign up for his newsletter on his website as well. But it's hard to get one of these. I mean, I've tried to get in on the lotteries, haven't had any success. I've tried to get in on the Instagram drops, haven't had any success. I've tried to have somebody proxy for me at a knife show, haven't had any success because anybody who is going to the knife show who could get one is going to want one for themselves, right? So first they'd have to get one for themselves, and then they'd have to be able to get a second one for you, and Oz doesn't do that. Unless you're Arizona Custom Knives or Knife Center and you can buy 3. Anyway, long story short, you don't go on the Facebook group and post and say, hey, ISO, which means in search of Rosie, at table price. Like, you can do that, but nobody's going to sell you one. I mean, it's going to be pretty damn rare for that to happen, that you're going to get it for table price. You're going to pay more, right? Or trade something very valuable for it. Which is what I had to do, essentially. And I had just gotten that Gavco that week. So, like, I essentially just paid cash for this. So you're just going to have to overpay or wait. Keep waiting. That's fine. Just don't complain about it then, right? You don't need to leave me a comment that I overpaid and, you would never do that. I get it. Okay? You would never do that. I cannot stop seeing shit in these glasses. It is so annoying right now. Jesus. Nothing there, Kev. Yeah, there is. Like, I don't get that. I've cleaned you 3 times now. I think I'm just sweaty, or this cloth is dirty or something. Maybe you gotta clean the cloth every once in a while too, huh? Never thought of that. Anyway, so that's kind of how you can get it. Go to the Facebook group and overpay, okay? Or sign up for his newsletter and try to get it on the drop. All right, that's good. Let's just get into the review. Aesthetically, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's it's up there with my favorite designs. I love the Evo 2.0. That has consistently been my favorite knife this year. This thing is very, very close, and honestly, this might be my favorite knife now. It may or may not be a toss-up. I don't know. It's really close. I love the look of this thing. I love the shape of the hole. It's not the best hole for deployment, really, the way the shape is, and I'll get to that. It is good. It's not as good as, like, the Field Duty or the Evo, I don't think. But it's good. But it looks absolutely fantastic. I love the stonewash finish. If I can't have a satin, I want this stonewash. Like, I love how they did this stonewash. The Zerk, or not the Zerk, the Zer blast on these scales, which is like getting the scales blasted with like zirconium material, as I understand it, is absolutely just gorgeous. And this ano work and this Damascus clip, man, the fact that he can do these colors into the clip that match everything is just fantastic. Ergonomics are absolutely on point on this knife. I love that the choil goes into the blade so that you get maximum blade length on it. My hand fits just like a glove in this thing. It is absolutely just spot on ergonomically. Now, you have this grip down here, which I technically can get most of my 4 fingers on, but why? Why would you ever hold it like that unless you needed the reach, I guess? This is where I live, and I love it. That clip is not in the way left-handed. If you're right-handed, you don't feel it. I mean, you know it's there, but you don't feel it. It's not a hot spot. Just fantastic. Carry, another just home run. This clip is absolutely fantastic. Nice and deep. You know, you have the tiniest bit sticking out. Has never bothered me. It's super lightweight. I mean, you can feel that. It's got milling for days in there. It's got these really cool triangle milling pattern in there. It's just so nice. Watch my disassembly to see that. It doesn't carry awkward in any way. It's beautiful. I carry it in my back left pocket. Never worry about it. It has Z-finit steel, so materials I didn't talk about. Titanium on the scales, titanium on the hardware, Damascus on the clip, Z-finit on the blade, which is LC200N. They are literally the same thing, made by the same company. It just has two names. I looked it up. It's not like 20CV and M390. It's LC200N is Z-finit. It just has a different name. It's a rust-proof steel, essentially. You've seen it on some Spyderco's, probably, like the Spidey Chef. Some of their, I forget what they call their rust-proof models, but that stuff. And then, yeah, it's just really good steel, and it holds a decent edge. It's very tough. It's tougher than Vanex, which is why some people choose it over Vanex, where Vanex has a little bit better, has better edge retention. They're both pretty much equally rust-proof. This one's tougher, and Vanex has more edge retention, so it's harder, I guess, is the way to put that. Daniel Osborne, he heat treats this perfectly. I mean, it comes from, I think, whoever heat treats Hinderer's blades, I believe. I don't know how that works, but it's done, as far as I can tell, very, very well. The edges last. I mean, this is still the edge that this came with, which I believe is the factory edge. And it's been great. I mean, I've cut cardboard. I've opened a bunch of boxes. Like, I don't not use this. I obviously don't, like, just go ham with it. If I have something more budgety in my pocket, I'll try to use that instead when something pops up that I need to cut. But I have certainly cut with this knife. I posted cutting with cardboard on Instagram the other day with it. It's so nice to slice through things. I did not find myself coming out of the cut like I do sometimes with the Quiet Carry Drift, which has a very similar design and blade shape and length and everything. I tend to come out of the cut on this one, whereas on this one I don't. I don't know why that is. I can't tell you, but it happens. This is fantastic to cut with. It has basically a full flat grind. Just goes through material. It's thin behind the edge. Just ground excellently. Sharpened excellently. And it doesn't rust. So carrying it in my back pocket, this knife, it's just so nice to have a high-end knife like this. I don't have to worry about rusting. I've absolutely enjoyed that. It also runs on bearings. It comes with, now this is where, depends on the knife. So if your knife is like pre-number 200-ish, 220-ish, it'll come with steel cage steel bearings. If you get it secondary, it might already have been swapped out. Anything post 220-ish, I think, he started using Delrin bearings, which are ceramic bearings with a plastic cage, essentially. They're very good. The older ones came with steel cage steel bearings, which still good, but like I hate them. I hate those bearings with a passion. I got this, and it came with skiffs in it from the guy I traded it for, or bought it off of. I tried Gillian's, Delrin's, skiffs, and taco bearings. I ended up with Gillian's in there at first, and it was great. It dropped shut like this. Smooth, extremely smooth, all the way through. And then I ended up putting taco bearings in for one reason. And this may or may not be important to you if you have a Roosevelt. The bearings run on titanium. So there's no washer in there. So you have titanium scales, then the bearings, then the blade, if that makes sense. Some people will argue that ceramic bearings or steel bearings even are not good to run on titanium because they can wear out the titanium and cause major issues down the line. Because then you have to replace the whole scale, not just a washer, right, if you have issues. Now, from what I understand, that's really only an issue if you really over-tighten your pivots so that the bearing is like getting smushed into the scale and essentially like wearing a deep track into it. If you just do it normally, if you just tighten it to where there's no blade play and the knife drops or whatever, you're going to be fine, most likely. But somebody on Instagram, shout out to Mitty, recommended taco bearings, and I wanted to try them anyway, just because I'm a bearing nut and I try all different ones. So I got them, and I have taco bearings in here. Essentially, it's just a slightly thinner bearing, and then a steel washer comes with it to make up that difference, and that goes against the scale. So now I have titanium, steel washer, bearing, blade, bearing, steel washer, titanium. Hence, taco bearing. And they have worked just as smoothly, just as well as the Gillians and the Delrins. I thought the Gillians were slightly better than the Delrins. I did tell Daniel Osborne all of this, by the way. The taco bearings, the Gillians, the Delrins, my experience. And I ended up just going with the taco bearings. It's probably the smoothest, best drop action I've gotten on this knife. Most of the action, since I'm talking about action, most of the action you're getting is based on the detent. It's based on the lock bar pressure. And I would say from the early, I got the handle number like 58 or something. This is number 158. And then I got the handle number like 433. The earlier ones, I've also got the handle Jake's, which is like 220 something like that. So I've had pretty much the whole range at this point, other than the very early ones. And number 58, mine, 158, and Jake's, 2 whatever, all have a very similar feel in terms of detent, which is a medium detent. I'd say probably medium to strong, like right in that range. When it pops, it shoots out and it locks up, right? No issue. The front, like the thumb flick right-handed is awkward because you got to stay off the lock bar. So it's hard for me to do. Left-handed, it's easy. You just flick it. But I would say this detent is on the medium to medium strong end, right? It's kind of like a medium well steak, right? Which means you get a very positive pop when you deploy it and it locks up, and it feels very satisfying when it snaps out. But on the closing action, when you push the lock bar over, it releases the tension and it drops, which means you have a very smooth pivot, very good bearings. All that stuff is good because it's just dropping shut when the pressure's off of it. From here on, once that pressure's back on it, it takes a little bit of shake and it goes down, right? Now, you're probably going to see people do this and it'll pop right down. No issue. But it's not like gliding. It's not just dropping like free of any inertia. You have to give it a little bit of shaking. So it's a shake closed, right? Extremely smooth. It is like butter in here, okay? This is one of the smoothest knives I've handled. Not quite on level with my Trevor Berger custom front flipper, but it is damn close. Okay? The new ones, so anything, I think from like, I'm going to just guesstimate like around 300 on. He has lightened the pressure on the detent. So he kind of learned along the way what people like and how to set it. And that detent is I would say, medium light detent. So medium rare steak compared to mine and the earlier ones, which is a medium well steak. Does that make sense? So those, you're going to have less of a snap on the deployment. Now, people, you can easily get pressure behind here and make it pop. And it's not like the new ones have a bad detent in any way. Absolutely still fantastic, but it's lighter than this, if that makes sense. So you can easily do this. Oops, see, I can't even do it. You can easily like kind of, man, I can't even do it. You can easily like use your finger to pop it out, and it'll come out like this instead of deploying all the way if you don't apply the right pressure when you're deploying it. So that's kind of the trade-off. You don't get as crisp of a break and a pop on the deployment. It's still very good. Do not get me wrong. People are not complaining, and neither am I. I just have to explain the differences. Now, the trade-off in the positive way is on the new ones, when you disengage, it does the same thing, drops like this because there's no pressure, and right? But from here, it literally just like one tiny little shake like that, and it's going to go boom. It's basically a drop shutter, like with a tiny shake and boom. So you have to think to yourself, what do you prefer? And right now, it's like, if you get a new one, you're going to get the nice, I'm not calling it the nicer drop shut, right? I actually prefer this, where I get a stronger pop on my deployment because I'm a detent whore, right? Most people are going to prefer the newer, just kind of glide shut detent. So that's why he does it. But I'm just telling you now, if you get one prior to, say, 250, 300, you may get one like this where it's a little bit stiffer on the detent and doesn't drop shut as much. If you get a newer one, you're probably going to get a more drop shutty one with a lighter detent. Okay, I've explained that. Neither one is better than the other, I don't think. They're just different, and you have to kind of decide. Because you're not going to decide. You're going to get what you get, and you're going to love it. But there's that. So that's action. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. Left-handed, I should go over that. You do have the lock bar to contend with. I can lock it up. See, can't get it out right now. As long as I stay low enough, I kind of just follow the clip. When I pick it up, I make sure I'm near the clip in some way, and I always get the deployment, no problem. And then I go right into a perfect ergonomic grip. Fantastic. Disengaging left-handed. Just push it over, pull down a little bit, and the shaking begins. But it's so smooth that it's just fun to shake. You know, I don't say that often, trust me. I also enjoy a left-handed thumb flick because it's really good left-handed. You don't have a lock bar in the way. Right-handed, trying to thumb flick is so hard because you're always on the lock bar. So I actually like the left-handed thumb flick, and I very much enjoy a left-handed slow roll, believe it or not. So those two things are awesome. One other thing I wanted to note, the hole shape. So it's very good, right? But I have found times where my thumb slides up to here, like at the top, and then it kind of gets like caught in the hole, and it almost like hurts because it goes past my nail and kind of grabs the under part of it. And then I'm locking up the knife because it's not in a good spot to flick it. Even when I'm off the lock bar, you can't really flick it from the top of the hole. And it kind of just hurts, you know? If you're right-handed, you're probably never going to have that problem. So it's kind of a lefty thing. But I've just noticed that when I miss it, it hurts. So other than that, it's a very nicely shaped hole and all that stuff. If the knife were a little bigger, I think, all around, it would fit my hand better and my finger would slot in a little bit better, I think. It's not really a complaint. It's just size of your hand and all that. Yeah, so we talked about aesthetics, ergos, action, cutting, carry. We talked about sounds. Oh my God, guys. This thing makes some amazing sounds. Custom knives. This is essentially what this is, a custom knife. The Haptic, my Trevor Berger, the Nurse, this. They just make cool sounds. Something about them being custom made or whatever just makes them sound nicer. It just has this really loud, like, not ting, but like, bam, when it locks up. I don't know if it comes through, but it's absolutely fantastic. And then when it drops, it kind of makes a sound when it kicks off your nail and then clicks close. The acoustics on this knife are way up there. I mean, I'm putting it at like a 9 out of 10 on this knife. Absolutely fantastic. Value. Again, I talked about this. To me, if you can get one for table price, you get in on a drop or whatever, man, you got a good deal. That's how I look at it. You got a good deal. Is this knife worth 500 base up to, 7, 8, 900 with all the accoutrement? Yes, 100% worth it. If a Gavco is worth $900 new, this thing is way, way worth the money you're spending on it. And that's no diss on Gavco, but he doesn't even carbonize his lock faces. I know that because I've had 2 of his customs now. They both had lock stick issues. And I had to send them back, and then they didn't have lock stick when he got them, because I think because he lives in Florida, somehow the humidity fucks with everything. I don't know. But I had to send one of them, my nurse, to the knife modders, and they carbonized it, and they say it's gone now. I don't have it back yet, but I believe them. Carbonizing your lock face fixes that issue. It locks up on ceramic balls. It has 2 ceramic balls. Has an open detent and a closed no. Yeah, one ball, I guess it sits on for lockup, and one ball it uses for the detent when closed, essentially. Yeah, so you have 2 detents, one for open and one for close, which is awesome. I love that kind of setup. It's kind of like the Grimsmo knives where they use stop pins to do that. So you don't have to worry about steel lock bar inserts. You don't have to worry about lock stick really at all because it's ceramic on the steel, right? Centering is dead nuts. Like, it's just a fantastic build quality. I haven't had any issues with it. Yeah, I've just truly enjoyed this knife. With no complaints, honestly. My only wish is that it comes left-handed. Like, yeah, I would love to get a lefty because then I could flick it and not have to worry about where my fingers are. But I've gotten so used to it now that I don't even care, honestly. When a lefty comes out, obviously I'll try to get one. But until then, I'm going to be happy with what I have. Also, if I could wish whatever, yeah, I think having one that's maybe 1/4 of an inch longer, half an inch long, like 3.25, 3.5 inch blade, and then spread everything out. Sort of like a field duty EDC size one would be awesome. I think like a sheep's foot Rosie would be awesome. If he keeps cranking out stuff with this build quality, yeah, he's taking over the market right now. And he's going to keep doing that. He's building a new shop. Hopefully he can keep pumping out this quality, but get us more knives, right? So I don't know if I skipped anything or missed anything. I talked about a lot there. I hope I hit all the points. I hope you understand that I love this knife dearly. I don't see it ever leaving my collection. Oh, that's what I want to talk about. If I could get one, like get a spot and pick what I wanted, what would I do, right? So my thoughts were I would just get this same exact build, but with like an icy blue color. So instead of this like icy green, which works for me, I got green eyes, but I do like blue. I think having that icy blue color on everything and in the clip would look sexy, right? But then part of me thinks maybe I would get the blue anodized scales that look really good instead. But then it would be kind of weird with the clip, and I love how that clip pops. So I'd probably just do this build with all blue stuff instead. We'll see if I ever get there, but this green is perfect. I mean, you really couldn't have picked a better one for me to get. And I got it in a trade, so I didn't really get to pick. He sort of had 2, and one was like dark washed and stuff, and I wasn't into that, so I really wanted this one. And this is kind of the one he wanted to sell anyway, so it worked out. But yeah, needless to say, guys, get yourself one if you can. Pay whatever you need to if you can afford it. That's my take on stuff like this. Like, don't don't overpay for a Kaiser sheepdog, but like if it's a Roosevelt or a Jaeger or something you really want and you got to pay a little extra for it, if you have the money and you don't mind, go for it, right? Who's to stop you from enjoying your life, right? If you're impatient like me and you want to do that, to me it always comes down to the knife, the situation, what it is. I'm like, that Gavco wasn't really for me. So yes, I get it. I had the money tied up in it. I could have sold it, and yes, I get all that, but it just wasn't a knife that was hard for me to let go. So I was just like, why not, right? So that's it. I love you guys. I'm sorry for ranting and raving and rambling about this knife for fucking ever, but it's worth every second of my time that I just spent on it. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love you all. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. Daniel, make some lefties. And I will catch you later.